What's going on, everybody? It's Josh, aka the Muslim Muscle, coming at you with a Next Up podcast with my boy.
Cousin Creamy coming at you. How we doing?
We might have to change that nickname. We haven't posted Creamies in a minute.
I
So,
know. We'll see
yeah,
what Detroit brings.
it's a perfect segue into what just started for you. Welcome to week one of prep.
Week
How
one.
we doing? So, currently 14 weeks out from Chattanooga,
Currently,
right?
yes, 14 weeks out.
So, let's get into the nitty gritty. This is going to be a podcast about me just wow, asking you questions.
Yes, sir.
So, starting weight.
215.1 pounds.
Now, because I think a lot of people see, we talk about like weights on here, and it's obviously very different. So let's go with a real height, not your slouch height.
5'7" and I'd say a quarter or a half.
So for anyone keeping track, little reference points: 5'7" and a quarter dash half at 215. My starting point in prep was 263, and I'm 6 foot plus. We'll say it's
6'1".
6'1", 6'1", but NPC decides that I could just shrink an inch and a half in a week. So 6 foot plus. Um, so Colin's a big boy. Colin is not a small boy, big boy. Um, starting calories of prep, or starting calories before the day one of prep
5,050. Oh no, 5150
on training days.
on training days and like 4850 on non-training days, some shit like that.
Solid. And all of this was done throughout like the maintenance phase. The last couple of weeks were kind of just like maintaining weight, not really trying to push up, not trying to add that extra stress to the body. Obviously, me and Colin have already talked a lot about this, so like we're assuming some things, but we'll try and explain it as we go through.
Yeah, the main portion of my last part of prep, the last 3 weeks, the first week of the th last 3 weeks, we pushed food. We ended up pushing fats just for the sake of calories, not for the sake of carbs. Realistically, I'm 5'7". 825 grams of carbs is more than sufficient to fuel my body, much more than needed, to be completely honest with you. And it just got to the point where he's like, look, we're not pushing food for the last 2 weeks. Just have a cheat meal in your days after Friday, because after my leg day, it leads into my last day, which is my upper day, which I'm usually cooked as shit for. So it's perfect. But then like this past week is my birthday. So I had a cheat meal on I say cheat meal, but a free meal on my birthday, aka day one of prep. And my
Which
waist. So,
was
what the fuck did I get? It was funny. I didn't even like take advantage of it. I just had steak. I just
all
had
right,
steak, rice. But I did have a bottle of wine. So bodybuilder,
nice. I heard a bottle of wine a day is great for you. I mean,
dude.
a glass of wine, glass of wine. Yeah, yeah, great for you.
Yeah,
Good for the health,
yeah. It keeps
resveratrol, and all that.
it keeps keeps your blood vessels nice and open.
Yeah, so I'm sure you got a great pump the next day if
Oh,
you trained.
dude, full blown.
Awesome. So now, currently, how did you feel at the 215 with that amount of food going in?
Really, I had a lot of questions just because, again, I've never thought it'd be hard for me to gain weight. My peak off-season weight last year was 217. I couldn't even get there. Like, even if I fucking dreamt of it, it didn't make sense to me. Um, and food sucked, but it was also, I think, how lean I got this off-season and how much I didn't fuck off on my diet. Granted, the 3 weeks after my show was just a fucking whirlwind of emotions. But once I got everything in check and everything was kind of stable, like a month, like 2 months after, it was steady gain. Some weeks I just plateaued and I just didn't gain anything. But then it was just to the point where it's like I hit like 210 and I just was not It was it. I miss a meal. I dropped like fucking 3.5 pounds and I'm just chasing again. And then I hit 211 and then I'm doing 20K steps at work and then I'm fucking 208 and I'm like, Jesus Christ. So it was just an uphill battle for the majority of this offseason, which I've never really had the issue with. But again, it's like I got to a point where it's like if I really wanted to, I could have eaten whatever I wanted, and completely fucked off from bodybuilding and like actually hitting 5 meals, and I wouldn't have gained weight. I would have lost weight, but it just got to the point where, you know, I couldn't stop eating all day. Like I legitimately had to be like very mindful, like, okay, every 2.5 hours at the minimum, get a meal in, or I wasn't getting my food in.
It's a true testament to when you take your off season seriously, or really just like making sure that you're doing things right. I mean, they say 80-20. 80-20 is more of a lifestyle. Bodybuilding is more of a 90-10 in the off season.
Yeah.
You get 10% where you can kind of, mess around, play around with calories, play around with macros, but like 90% of the time you got to be on. And it just shows to see like how metabolically reactive you are in the fact of you missed a meal, or you ate, you did a little bit more activity and your weight would just plummet, because like when you're pushing peak off season, you're pushing peak weights, your body is in an uncomfortable state. It wants to get back to a homeostatic point, or where you should technically be resting at.
Yeah.
But when you take it seriously and you push your food and you push your training and you do all the little things right, you get into a spot where your metabolism rips through. And there was a good period of the off season where I was in that position too. I'd go out and have a cheat meal, lose weight. Um, and I would eat whatever I want pretty much at that meal. It wasn't until the very end of off season where my weight would stick afterwards. So it's just a true testament to saying like you do this correctly and you can, to a degree, do whatever you would like
Yeah.
for a good period of time. So definitely awesome there. When it comes to your current diet, your current kind of setup. Oh, also, how much cardio were you doing?
I was doing
Honest
base.
answer, not what the plan said, but honest answers.
No, like honestly, I was doing it was maj like the first, let's say 10 weeks of the off season was like 30 minutes off. I never missed a rest day cardio session. Kind of just felt like a fat fuck if I didn't. But it was like 20 minutes. 20 minutes of cardio. There would be weeks where I just don't hit all 5 days. But at the minimum I'd hit three. But it was like 20 minutes for the majority and then 10 minutes for the last five of my push. And then for the last 4 weeks, I've done no cardio on training days, and it's just been rest day cardio. So it again, that's also the whole thing of keeping cardio in your off season. But it got to the point where it wasn't for the sake of losing fat. It's just keeping your appetite alive because I eat my pre-meal, which was 155 grams of cream of rice, and I'm disgustingly full. I have to wait a minimum of like an hour and a half before I even think about training. And then by the time I'm training, I'm still full. And then train, do cardio, and then I'm okay. I'm hungry enough to actually get a substantial meal in, which thankfully it was cereal. So it went down really easy, but it was just for the sake of appetite, not for the sake of losing fat.
Gotcha. And then also with this is a personal question. When you were doing 10 minutes of cardio, were you even breaking a sweat? Or
Oh,
were you were post training? So
it was post training. So my heart rate's already elevated, so I'm fucking sweating my nuts off on the Stairmaster.
gotcha. I was gonna say I think it takes me normally about 12 minutes or so to break a sweat or to start sweating. So it's like, yeah, 10 minutes, I'll be in and out. I'm not even showering afterwards. I'm getting
Yeah,
going.
dude, if I was doing fasted 10 minutes, that's just a waste of time. Like
Yeah, might as well walk there.
I'm just wasting gas getting to the gym.
All right, cool. And then now, where's your cardio at now? Because obviously you were at 0, you were at 10 for a little bit, you were at 20, but like where's your cardio now with the start of prep?
I'm at 30 minutes on a rest day and zero on a training day.
How many rest days a week?
Two.
Cool. So also, I guess just run through kind of your split really quick, because like obviously you just posted something on Instagram talking about 14 chances of a
Four.
leg day, where I have 34 left.
Yeah, dude.
But different strokes for different folks. I have a total of like two, I guess 200 sets of back to get through between
Oh,
now and the end of
yeah, yeah,
prep.
yeah, yeah.
So it's like my back volume is minimal versus my leg volume probably rough assumption, probably close to like 400-ish sets.
Oh my
So
God. Yeah, I mean, legs wise, it's once a week. Pretty minimal to say the least for a majority of people who really need to train legs. I do have quads technically twice a week. I have two working sets. I have one working set, one backup set on my posterior day, which I'm sorry, Jack, I don't really do. Um, but yeah, it's chest and arms on my Monday. Tuesday is my posterior day, where again I said I should be doing quads, but I don't because I'm a fuck off. Um, rest Wednesday, and then arms on Thursday, which is usually a shoulders and arms day. I rarely ever just let it just be arms. Um, Mostly lateral and front delt, rear delt. I don't really need to do that much. I already do a lot of rear delt work on my back days, as well as just back days in general. Hit your rear delts. Um, Leg day on Friday, and then upper day on Saturday, which is back and chest. But I will say the thing I did post, it was 14 leg days. But with that said, I touched quads a total of five, seven total sets for the remainder of prep, 98,
that's including peak week. So you can cut that number down by
90,
7.
91.
Yeah. So it's just to show the dichotomy that we occur. So that's ridiculous to think about. But at the end of the day, realistically, what matters is no matter how many sets you do, if you make every single one count, you're going to
Yeah.
put together the product that you need to. Um, from this style of training, have you noticed that your look has been cleaner, especially in your lower body, just because you're carrying less inflammation throughout the week?
Yeah. Usually my legs stay pretty lean in the off season, but they've stayed obnoxiously lean this off season. Again, my sweeps are already feathered out on both legs. My glutes are in on my side chest, on my rear double, back double, still fat, but that's okay. We're week one of prep. But yeah, I mean the inflammation is definitely down on the lower body. It's something where there's a proper amount of stimulation when it comes to my leg days where I just bury my shit. But again, the 7 days to rest and recover is plenty of time for me to, get myself ready for the next one. But yeah, the inflammation is definitely something where I don't have that very, like loose slash red slash puffy-ish skin that could be surrounding the muscles. Like my upper body, like my back is extremely inflamed. I hit that shit a lot during the week. But yeah, I definitely think there's a part to it where being that I only hit it so minimal that it stays leaner and harder and just a lot more detail through and through. But that's also due to the fact that there's a lot more muscle on my legs than anywhere else in my body.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's something I've noticed. My quads. Wow, I just ran into something. I'm sorry. My quads consistently stay very, very lean. Even like I don't know why, honestly. I don't have the muscle for them to stay lean. But like in week 2 of prep, my quads were starting to feather out. But I realized that like in my check-in pictures, you can't see that because I'm training quads Thursday, Friday, Stairmaster 6 times a week.
Yeah.
They're pretty much constantly inflamed, which is fine until a day like today where I took pictures and I haven't trained in 2 days and do cardio, and all of a sudden my quads actually look separated. So definitely something to take into consideration, especially for anyone who's not bodybuilding per se, but you're on a cut and like, hey, you train legs the day before, but they don't look the best. You don't, it looks like you might have gotten a little more fat, especially legs, because like you'll hold inflammation everywhere from a really hard leg day.
Yeah.
So like you might look a little puffy, you might look a little watery, but the whole idea behind it is that like you cause a disruption to the system. Inflammation isn't always bad. Or chronic systemic inflammation is, but acute inflammation in tissues is not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
So now getting into realistically, how are you changing training are you changing things with prep? Are you adding a little bit more volume on certain days? Are you going a little bit higher rep range? Are you staying? I don't know if you were doing like a 6 to 10 on a leg press, but like, are you staying in that 6 to 10 rep range? Or are you bumping that up just a little bit just for safety?
Legs wise, honestly, I'm sticking kind of the same I've been doing. Even in like peak off season where I was just like a fat bloated piece of shit and like weight was getting really heavy, and like joint protection and all that kind of stuff. Like usually a lot of my other body parts, I moved to kind of everything went a little higher volume, stretch out working sets, kind of just milk out as much as I can. Now we're just saying fuck it and just diving back into the nitty gritty of what I did last time and just tops it back off. Again, weights are still very, very, very high. I mean, damn near where they were, if not exactly where they are, peak off season. But now it's just to the point where I'm driving intensity so hard where in the off season, or I'd say in the off season, like it's fucking 5 weeks ago, but it's more so where I was like peak off season, I had plenty of time. I was just kind of getting in there and just stimulating and just doing, if I could get more, I got more. It's what I always do. But now it's a lot more just tops it back off. The only day that I'm really just milking everything is my arm days. Because again, that's one weak point of mine. My arms are a significant weak point, I believe. They definitely come up this off season, but like my triceps, especially in like rear and front double, we're definitely lacking the size, the shape, all that kinds of stuff. So now I'm actually lucky enough to have somewhat of a tricep and it kind of sweeps down in a back double. But that's probably the one thing I'll be manipulating the entire off season or the entire prep is just continuously. If I can give more on an arm day, give more. But a lot of my training is just going to move strictly top set back off and realistically no sort of working sets are going to be put into the place of like 3 or 4 working sets. It's just going to be all top set back off, more so for the sake of intensity, because I think that was a big driving factor of how lean I got last year. Because again, I was so used to the 3 or 4 working sets and it just drags out. Whereas this one, yes, you're doing 8 different exercises, for instance, but if I can drive intensity um on one top set and then clean up my form for the back off set and it's going to give me more than what those working sets have given me, then I'm well, heaven's heck gonna just live and die on that hill.
100%. And, this is something that I think you learn over time is that yes, you could do more and like, hey, I have a little bit more energy today during prep. I'm not dragging around. Like, so I'm gonna do one extra set and I'm just gonna try and like really bury myself here. And for lack of a better term, you don't build muscle during prep. You're kind of preserving the muscle. Do I think that in the early stages of prep you absolutely can build muscle? Yeah. When body fat's high, food's still high, you're just kind of tidying up. You're getting things tighter. You're looking cleaner, but like you can absolutely grow into that, especially if there's a reintroduction of compounds.
Yeah.
So, I mean, from that perspective of like, can you get a little more? Yeah, but you have to look at a long-term like timeline. If you're starting here and volume's all the way up here, and then you get through prep and you're down here, but your energy is just shot and your volume's down here, that diagonal is going to be a big difference in how many calories per se that you actually burn. Also, just how much you stimulated that tissue. If you were doing 5 sets of a chest, excuse me, 5 sets of a chest press, and now you're doing 2 sets, yeah, can you probably maintain? I think they say it's like you need 1/8 of the work to maintain muscle as to build muscle. So yeah, you could probably maintain, but let's say this one burned 50 calories of your 5 sets, and now 2 sets is just going to burn 20. That gap of 30 calories over the course of 4 months, 5 months, that gap is just going to keep going down. Your workouts are actually going to be less stimulating. So instead of starting at 5, start at 2, stay at 2.
Yeah.
That way you're still doing the same amount of work. And it's also a matter of like chest press, a bad example, but let's say a leg press. If you start and you got 7 plates aside here, you did it for 2 sets and you got 10 reps. And at the end of prep, you got 7 plates aside. You got 8 reps for both sets. But your body weight is 30 pounds lighter. You're actually stronger here. That's how I view it. That's how I've always viewed it, is that it's not just a absolute strength, but a relative strength, especially in the back end of a diet. If you can turn around, you can will out 2 more reps just to try and match your top set on a peak bulk, and you knew you had another set afterwards. You're doing more by doing that, by really just eking out those while being 30 pounds lighter. Your leverage is different, your bracing's different, everything just feels different. Um, Now we'll get into the more personal things. Actually, first, have you and Jack talked about like how you guys would do refeeds? Or is it more clean food? Is it an off plan? I already know Jack's not a burger and fries guy, so like I don't expect that one. But like in general, what's your guys's? You've ran through a prep with Jack before, so you kind of know what you're going to be getting into. But like
Yeah.
every prep's a little different. So
I mean, honestly, we just like last prep, we just did all clean food, but that was also because that was the first time working together. But we never had anything like post show because there's like coaches who'll like look at post show as a time to collect data for the next one for the sake of like, let's throw a burger in, post whatever, see what your weight does. And it's like, yeah, there's something to it. I mean, I get it. You want to see the reaction to the body, but again, the body then is not the same body coming down in the next prep. So it's like there's only so much data you can really collect, which to be honest, I think is a load of dog shit, but fuck me. Um,
our
Anywho,
opinions don't matter, as we always say.
yeah, dude, I'm a fucking nobody. Um,
For
but
now,
yeah,
14 weeks.
14
14 weeks
weeks.
to become a somebody.
Somebody in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Hell yeah.
Um, yeah, so we're just probably gonna be doing clean foods. It's just more rice, more potatoes. Usually throwing like Rice Krispie treats if refeeds get like really out of hand. So like if it gets to the point where we're touching like 1,000 gram refeeds, 1,000 grams of carb refeeds, then yeah, we're gonna throw in some like shit like that just for the sake of easy carbs. But it's all clean food. We don't do burger and fry. Nah, I don't know if he does that with other people. I don't give a fuck if he does it with other people. I don't really want it because realistically speaking, by the time I get a refeed, probably gonna be fucking 8 weeks into a diet, and I'm not gonna want to know what good food tastes like because you kind of forget what good food tastes like when you've been on prep for so long. And the people who will live and die by I need a burger and fry and this, that, the other, great, fantastic, have it your way. I'd rather clean food. I know it digests well for me. So that's what we do. It's just clean shit that we've had before. So it's just more rice, more potatoes, Rice Krispies, more cereal, more cereal.
Must be nice. Must be nice. It's been a long time since I've had a bowl of cereal now. So
Damn, dude. My fucking post-workout's still like 170 grams of cereal.
you know what's crazy is I knew that was getting pulled.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I, it was my last meal of the night. There was no fats in the meal. It was like, all right, we're just gonna spike insulin right before bed. I don't think this is gonna last very long. I just expected it to get switched to oats. And it didn't.
Yep.
No, it's just way a nice creamy every night. So now let's talk about like more personal stuff. What's this personal goal you have this prep? Like
Uh,
outside of competing, outside of like yeah, outside of competing, what's a personal goal that you have?
Personally, it's being a lot more transparent. Is that the word I'm looking for? Proactive, I guess. Much more proactive on my socials, and also kind of really learning to make the most out of this time. Because again, it's all well and good to say that, oh, I'm gonna go viral on prep, blah blah blah, look great, whatever. But it's more just I want to be able to kind of build something that I'm proud of. Just because a lot of the times I get to the end of my preps and you're running off the dopamine from, coming up to a show, you're almost there, people are complimenting you, stroking your ego, it's great, fantastic, whatever. But I want to be able to turn back to something after the show and continue building and continue growing because it's all well and good to ride the high of a show. It's great. I expect everyone to enjoy it, but when the lights are off, the shows are over, you're finally eating some food. You go back to your job, all that worship and, even if, for instance, I go get a pro card, I get the pinnacle of what I want my season to become. I want to become an IFBB pro this season. At the end of the day, once that's all done and over with, 2 weeks later, you're just a shit pro. So I want to be able to have something that I can build, help grow, and it's not necessarily just coaching, but it just be able to grow something in which that, I can still hold myself accountable to, whether it's posting, whether it's talking to people, whether it's communicating with, even if it's clients or whatever the case may be. I want to be able to build something that I'm proud of and that I can hold through after the prep and still have the rewarding factor after, because a lot of the times the dopamine spikes are way too fucking high and then the post-show blues are way too fucking low. So I want to be able to mitigate those post-show blues and then dopamine spikes for the sake of having something very self rewarding in the time leading up to said show. I don't know what that's going to be. I'm still in the mix of working on it, but it's just something that I want to do for myself to kind of help control my mental state, because I know post show my mental state kind of takes a little bit of a shit. A little personal note of Colin, y'all might not know, but it's something that I need to do for myself in order to maintain a healthy homeostasis within my own brain.
Definitely a fair point. I think one of the keys of prep, honestly, is not only diving into each day, but also building towards the future so that when it's all over and you're, hanging up the trunks for the season, especially after the idea of winning a pro card, right? Like you said, 2 weeks later, you're a shit pro. You're literally bottom of the totem pole. You now have to build. I mean, for you, it's going to be a swing of like 15, 16 pounds.
Yeah.
Right. Uh, for those that don't understand that one, it's a matter of the pro weight cap is about 10 pounds heavier, but also because Colin goes class A and not class B, he also now is going to be class B, quote unquote, which isn't the thing in the IFBB, but he'll get like a 16-pound swing of muscle mass. The average person puts on about 10 pounds of muscle a year if they're doing everything perfectly. So, like, knowing how long he has to go until that point, he's got to build something outside of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key to all of this is like putting together something to be proud of at the end. Whether it's you're doing the YouTube videos, you're doing the little posting, you're doing, you're trying to build a business, but also like to look back in, 10, 15 years when you're talking to your kids about something and you say like, hey, this is, this is me documenting this whole journey. This is everything that I went through. I'm proud of this. Here, look at this. I accomplished something.
Yeah.
And like give them something to look at in the long term and be like, wow, if he could do that, why can't I do it? And I think that is the quintessential purpose of bodybuilding is like something I preach a lot, do hard things.
Yeah.
Like bodybuilding is the quote unquote hardest thing. It's really not. It really isn't. It's actually very easy. Training is, if you like training, it's easy. If
Yeah.
you if you want to look better, cardio now has a reason. Um, you're literally abstaining from eating shit. So I think bodybuilding is fairly simple. It's the doing it day in and day out that gets hard. But doing the hard things of like trying to build something outside of that's when your energy is shot and you got to go on camera, that's going to be tough. So I not only commend you, but I also in my own way am doing that. And really, I think one of the biggest takeaways is like him saying, not having the dopamine spikes and not having the post-show blues or like mitigating them. It's riding the midline. It's not going too high, not going too low, and just staying in an almost neutral place and appreciating everything, but also knowing that everything can be taken away at any given point. So when you're sitting there and you're like, everything's going good, great, appreciate it, but don't turn around and now slack off because things are going good. Just keep pushing, keep going, never quit on that aspect. And, that's got to be the motto of prep is like, don't quit. Just don't stop. You get on that treadmill or whatever, or you get on the elliptical and you got 45 minutes and you're 5 minutes in, you're gassed. And it's like, I say to myself a lot when I'm doing cardio, it's not like I'm going to stop. So there's no point in complaining about it. Still got 40 minutes to go. Just do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that
good.
there's it's just, it's again a lot of the self um I can't fucking think of words this morning.
Deprecation.
It not even self-deprecation. It's a lot of the stuff in which that I always tell myself I'm going to do and I never do it. And or at least I touch my toes, dip my toes in it and never really get into it. And that's something where I need to start holding myself more accountable. And that's the problem is that it's the self-doubt, but then it's the what will people think about me? It's like, it don't really fucking matter because guess what, motherfucker? You could wake up tomorrow, or guess what? You could not wake up tomorrow. As dark as that shit is, at the end of the day, post what you want to post. If people want to make fun of you, make fun of you. It is what it is. And I kind of day in and day out have to tell myself that because you're gonna lose followers, guys. It happens. I've lost like fucking 20 something after I've made a post of whatever. And it's just like, all right, fuck it. It's people who don't want to be there. But there's 1,250 others who still want to be there to watch me do this. And I know there's many more. It's just a matter of, again, building a community, building something. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a community where people have like the channels online. It doesn't have to be that. It just has to be something that I'm proud of. And if that means I get 2,000 people who give a shit about it out of the billions of people in this world, fuck it. It is what it is. I'm proud of it, and that's all that really should matter. And that's what I have to start working on this prep. Because again, the prep highs and the prep lows, something I kind of want to mitigate, like you said, right in the midline. It's just a lot more healthy for the human brain. The less stimulation and the less, decline and the ever so wavering fucking highs and lows are going to be something that will mentally tax you over what prep will already do. So if you can kind of mitigate that social media aspect and really just hold yourself accountable and just keep as steady head as you possibly can, it's going to make my life a lot easier. And as well as anyone else doing it, it's going to make your life a hell of a lot easier. I know I'll have Josh to kind of hold me down just so I don't fucking spiral out of control at moments. But again, not so many people are, lucky enough to have that. And again, this is not some sort of, I'm not trying to get all fucking ushy gushy, fucking sentimental, but it's true. There's people who go into preps and they don't have anybody. Their parents don't necessarily support the sport they do. The people around them just doubt them. And you got yourself. At the end of the day, you got yourself. So I'm lucky enough to say that I have Josh, and it's something that, I'll be grateful for. But at the end of the day, if I do have to end up coming to Universe, I'm going to kick his fucking teeth in on the overall and take that fucking pro card for a ride.
Hope to God I make weight. Yeah, that's not happening. But with that said, go ahead, sign us out, Colin.
Well, it's been yet another beautiful, beautiful Sunday on the Next Up podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and we will be chat with you guys very, very soon. But thank you again, and we will see you next week.
Oh yeah. Thank you, brother. Talk to you soon.
See you soon.